back in Indianapolis after a year off?
Oh, it's great. I mean, I've always enjoyed Indy. Of course, been involved in the competition committee for a long period of time. It's something I look forward to, and it's good to recap the season. Good to look at the things we can do better in as a league, and then of course have the excitement of putting 21 in the rearview mirror and looking toward the future and building our team.
How much do you guys want to have the combine in Dallas, Arlington, Frisco, however you want to, Metroplex?
I'll start with Indy's been a great host, and if the league so chooses to move it, which it sounds like they might, around some, then we certainly want to be at the top of the list if we can. I mean, we'll be competitive and would love to host.
Why?
I just think it's great to, for our fans to have it in our market and let them have the experience of being around it. I think it's a positive thing. I think people, can't get enough of the NFL and football, and I think it's great for them to see these young players in our market, and I think it'd be a great experience for them.
You save some gas on the bus.
Well, it wouldn't have to make the trip to Indy. It just have to, who knows where it'd go, Arlington or the Star, I don't know which.
Stephen, what was your reaction to that ESPN report about involved Rich Dalrymple, the cheerleaders? Obviously, your sister mentioned in there. Just what were your thoughts about that?
I think Jerry's addressed it, and I really don't have anything to add to what he said and what our statements have been.
Where does the committee stand on the overtime rules? Does there need to be a change, and what does a change look like?
We haven't gotten to that point yet, but I'm sure, like everything, the staff and then the league does a great job of putting an agenda together, and historically we do a great job of working through that. And I know people have strong feelings and strong opinions on those things, and certainly there's a balance in terms of how that works. We had one big game where one team never touched the ball, and we had another big game where both teams got to touch it. So, it can work both ways, but it'll obviously be something we give a lot of thought to, and hopefully we'll continue to make good decisions.
Is there a way you lean on that right now? Would you like to see
No,
it?
I want to see it. I want to see all what the options are. I understand why we try to shorten overtime from a player safety standpoint. But at the same time, it's a great argument that's made, with giving both teams a chance to have an opportunity to win the game. That Buffalo-Kansas City game was one of the greatest games ever, and unfortunately, Buffalo never got a chance to get back out there and try to tie it up. But, it's like I said, it'll be something that we give a lot of thought put a lot of thought into, and hopefully we'll make a good decision.
Do you feel confident with how much you liked your roster this past year that you guys can have just a good roster?
Yeah, I think, obviously we'll have to make some tough decisions. And, all the players that we have up for contract, we'd like to keep them all. But, the salary cap's a real thing. And certainly as we move forward and you have a quarterback, and every team experiences that has a franchise quarterback that they now paid him their second contract. And, we just have to make some decisions and some tough ones. But I think the ones, unfortunately, if we lose a couple of good players, and hopefully we'll continue to do a good job with our drafting process, and then look for value in free agency so we can draft the way we've historically drafted, which is not on a need basis but on a best player available basis.
Do you expect Amari Cooper to be on the roster in 2022?
It's too early for me to address that yet. We're continuing to have conversations. A lot of things affect that in terms of, we obviously been so fortunate to have, those three great receivers on our roster, and obviously that's hard to keep doing, under a salary cap. And certainly, Sed did a really nice job for us, and he's up. So, there's some moving parts to that we'll have to continue to massage as we move forward.
Not being vaccinated, does that have any impact on the decision you guys make going forward?
No.
How big is a week like this to kind of show where you lean in some of those decisions that are being made this offseason?
I think it's a little early, in my opinion. You come here with an agenda wanting to get a lot done. We're going to meet with, between Adam and myself and Mickey Loomis and Will and Coach. I bet we're going to meet with over 24 agents. So, but still, I think people are, they're just feeling it out. So you come hoping you might get some things done, but usually we're still a little early yet.
Going back to You have to make a decision, just on the contract by March 22nd?
You know what? I'll get that for you. I don't have the date right at my fingertips right now.
50 league or two.
50, yeah.
March 20th.
Something like that. So you have to make that. So that's part of it. Do you ask? I mean, is a pay cut on that? I know you guys.
Like I said, I don't want to address any of that in terms of the details of anybody's contract or who's going to be here and who's not going to be here. I mean, that's a work in progress for us right now.
With DeMarcus Lawrence, is that the same?
Same thing. I mean, we go through every player on our roster, and I know you guys want to. May target guys that you think we may be looking at, and usually those are the guys who are making a lot of money, and so that's why that comes with making money. I mean, unfortunately, in this league is the value there, and certainly we'll work through that. I mean, we're talking about two great football players we're talking about right there, DeMarcus Lawrence and Amari Cooper, and I mean, I hold them up here in terms of what we think about them, but we also have to put the full 53-man roster together.
And it's been several years since at this time of the year you weren't thinking about Dak's contract, or at least weren't needing to negotiate it. How does that change what this week looks
Well,
like?
y'all are bored. Y'all don't have anything. In all seriousness, it's super nice, not to have to be focused on just him. And I'm sure he feels the same way, that the spotlight's not on him. But it does allow you to look at the bigger picture of, what we're going to do with this roster. And we, as you know, we really felt good about our roster this year, and feel that we can have another good roster again, but we're going to have to massage this, and we're not going to be able to keep everybody, and we're going to have to be efficient in free agency, and we're going to have to be efficient in the draft.
So there's nothing with the Rams winning the Super Bowl, doing it the way they did it, that changes your guys' perspective on any of that stuff?
There's a lot of different ways to do things, and certainly hats off to them. I mean, they had a hell of a year and win a Super Bowl, and certainly, they went about it in a way that's pushing a lot of chips out there. So, there's some forms of all this, that we'll probably decide where we want to be. Feel like we've got a lot of good young players on this football team, and you don't want to just be starting over, if you will, if we did too much, because you can obviously, we could do some things that would allow us to keep most of our guys if we wanted to push it all out, but then we'll have a much bigger problem, next year and the year after that.
Do you not expect the cap to go up exponentially here then? Is it when you say that?
Well, I think it'll go up. I think it'll go back to where it was, but we obviously, with the pandemic, it pushed it back. And that affected a lot of contracts in this league that were done based on things being status quo before the pandemic. I mean, as you know, we do a lot of 5-year contracts. And so, you've got to catch up and make up for some of that. So it took the typical increases that you might have seen and, took money away from the cap over these years as we get the pot right with the players.
So you don't see it go from, say, 208 this year to 228, 230 next year?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, we don't quite have our finger right on that. The league hasn't given it to the team. So, you can do your own little machinations with it and understand that. I mean, I do think there's going to be increases to the cap. I just don't know, to what degree.
What do you talked about, of the talent you had last year, what you want to keep. What do you need to improve?
I mean, the things that jump out, would be in general, I think we've got to be more disciplined on the penalty front. I think Mike and the coaches understand that. I think that was a tough thing for us, even in the 49er game. I think we had 14 penalties in the 49er game. So I think we definitely can improve there. Everybody always wants to run the ball better. We want to be more efficient running the football, but Mike's going through all this with the coaches right now and where we can get better and what we might want to do different, but there's no question we have to get better because we weren't good enough this year to get it done.
Back to it, Mark.
Make up front, offensive line, obviously Connor was free agent. Connor McGovern couldn't take the job. I mean, there's a question of guard there. I don't know. There's a center in the draft. I don't know. What do you think about the offensive line and where you can improve there?
Well, all things are in play. I mean, y'all keep bringing guys up. I mean, we're not going to address individuals,
Right.
but all of that's in play when you're trying to figure out what's going to give you the best chance to win. And, who you keep, who you move on from. those are going to be tough decisions because I have so much respect for the men who were on the team this year. And when you're not going to be able to keep some of these guys, it's tough.
When you have as much money tied already to your offense and to your offensive line, is it difficult to address through free agency some of the spots on the offensive line where you might be looking to improve this offseason? Is the draft a more logical avenue given where you guys are financially?
In general, yeah. From a money standpoint, if I'm looking into a crystal ball right now, I see most of our money that would go toward free agency going to our current players. Now, it doesn't mean that won't change, that we don't come across a value on a player that we said, hey, it's just one we got to take. So I don't want to rule it out. But in general, it'll go to our players, and then we have to be efficient in the draft in terms of improving the team.
Back to the decision ahead on Amari, his usage, not just production, but in terms of how often he was targeted, even when he was on the field, it was down.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of his relative lack of involvement, especially for someone who's got the contract of a number one wide receiver?
I just think it's an offensive philosophy, and with when we had the skilled players that we had, between Kellen and Dak, I think there was a progression of where you threw the ball, and depending on how the defense played you, it would point the ball to certain places where, hey, if they're going to double over here and they're going to double over the top over here, then that's going to dictate that the ball goes here. So I think it's more of a system deal. It wasn't a thing where we just said, hey, we're not going to target Amari as much.
Is that the right
Based
system?
on the system, then does that make financial sense? You're not getting your investment dollars.
We go through all that. I mean, like I said, I'm not going to get into individually this stuff, but yes, all that plays into how we invest.
With Coach McCarthy and where he is entering his third season, how tough a spot is it maybe externally when Sean Payton rumors are going to be out there? Jerry said what he said about Dan Quinn. Is he facing an uphill climb?
No, I don't think so. I just think, unfortunately, when you're a coach, when you're a quarterback, a player for the Cowboys, you're going to get a lot of attention, and sometimes it's not going to all be positive. I mean, Jerry and I know that better than anybody. I mean, you're going to, if you're going to have people who are, going to be your critics, people are going to, step up and have question marks. But we feel good about Mike.
Why is he still the right guy?
Why is he? Well, I think one, we went. What did we go, 12-5? So, most people consider that a success. It's not around here because we want to win a championship. I think his track record speaks for itself. I mean, he's won Super Bowls. He's been to championship games. I love the way his leadership style is. I think he's got a great pulse for our football team, and I just feel like he's the right guy for us.
Do you want to see him more involved in the offense this year with Kellen than he has been his first couple of years?
I think he's more involved than you think he is. Let's start with that. But no, I think he's going to, knowing we need to take the next step, I think everybody's going to, turn it up another notch, if you will.
In keeping Kellen and Dan, continuity is a thing you guys talk about. Why is that a big deal to keep both of your coordinators?
Well, I think offensively, we were, either one or two in the league. So that's a nice reason why. We obviously needed to play better against the 49ers, but we did have a top-ranked offense. And then defensively, we took a huge step. And I think our defense played hard, and I think they played well, and I think we'll play better.
Can you look at how?
And I think I think our special teams unit is one of the best in the league. Whether it's Goose's measurements or whoever ranks special teams, I think I think all three of our coordinators did an outstanding job. And obviously, they did a great job because Mike's doing a great job as a head coach.
How do you put all that together if you're number one in yards or two, whatever, in points and things, and then there were so many games in the second half of the season where the offense didn't look like it was on track, didn't play. Is any of those stats bumped up from 50 points against Washington and Philly and 43 against Atlanta that make it seem something might not be?
We have to get better. I mean, we didn't win a Super Bowl, so we have to get better. And I think I said that. It's not good enough. I mean, we gotta play better on the bigger stage. I mean, obviously one of our biggest thorns in our side is we haven't won a playoff game. And that's real. and we have to change that. We got to play better in these big games.
Is
Y'all
it
had
mental
such
for your
success.
team at this point? I mean,
Huh?
Is it mental for your team?
I don't think so. I mean, these players turn over. You know that, Clarence. I mean, it's a different group of guys. You're going to turn over a third of your roster in the NFL every year. So, you know, Dax Young, he's just getting going, and I don't think it's a mental thing at all.
When you look at the success you had with young defensive guys last year and how effective Dan was as a coach and a teacher, does it make you think let's keep investing in the draft defensively because Dan will coach them up?
Well, I think what you want to invest in the draft is the best possible player, and that's what happened with Micah and Spades. I mean, a lot of people looking, what did you draft Micah for? You got Jalen, you got Leighton, and now they're both free agents, and Micah's considered one of the better defensive players in the league. So if you set your team up and allow yourself to take the best player available, I think that's how you have efficient drafts.
What worked in your evaluation process to find Micah in a way that 11 teams didn't think he was worth that at first?
Just think it's doing your work and giving the guy the grade that he deserves, and not say, well, we don't necessarily need this guy, so, you know, we're not going to grade him as hard. I mean, we go through a thorough process on every player, knowing that you could have a surprise, and some of these players could drop to you. So I just think it's being thorough in your evaluation process.
He's talked since the Super Bowl that he played with a knee injury that he suffered in training camp. Did you guys know about that? And just talk about what he was able to accomplish playing all season with the knee injury.
Well, you know, I'm not going to speak to all these guys have, and I'm not at all saying that his injury wasn't significant. I mean, only he knows how much it bothered him. So, as you know, in the NFL, a lot of guys are out there playing from Zeke to right on down the line. Probably every offensive lineman, we all know about how physical our game is. So, you know, for Micah to be extraordinarily tough, though, and play through that doesn't surprise me.
Do you think your loyalty and patience with Randy will have some payoff this offseason, or should it have some payoff? That you stuck with him through his difficult time?
I mean, you hope so. I mean, I hope that's the case with all of our guys out here, that they really want to be in Dallas, and there's a lot of advantages to being a Cowboy. There's a lot of advantages to living in Dallas, Texas, in terms of the business part of things. So, you know, you just hope at the end of the day you do, you know, when we sit right down to it and we're trying to make this thing work, that we are going to have people, agents and players, give us a chance.
I wanted to give you an opportunity without harping on it because I respect what you said earlier. But anytime there's a report like the one that came out, some will question what the culture is like, you know, when something like that comes out. And so I wanted to give you that chance. What's the culture within the Cowboys today, and what has it been, and do you feel it
I
is?
feel like we have a solid culture. You can always be better. You know, you strive to get better every day in every area. So that'd be my comment.
You brought up Zeke. What's the, you know, and wanting to run the ball better, what's the confidence level that Zeke can still be that type of back, especially given his salary, what he's making?
Well, I just think, you know, I want Zeke on my team. I mean, that guy, you talking about playing through some injuries and some things that are hard. I mean, he is a competitor. I think he's a damn good running back, and I think he's gonna help us win this year. And obviously, you know, his contract, his money's guaranteed. He's going to be here. There's no question. So, and we're fortunate to have it.
How long did it take you to move past that 49ers loss, and was it longer than maybe some other season-ending losses for you?
It was tougher. I mean, one of the toughest ones in a while. I mean, we really, as y'all know, we felt good about our football team, and felt like we were playing well, all three phases, and felt like we had an opportunity to win the game in spite of making it difficult on ourselves with the penalties. But it took a while, and I think everybody took it hard. I think owners, coaches, players, everybody in the organization. You know, that's a tough one.
As you guys do simple restructures to clear up cap space again, Dak's deal seems pretty straightforward, but how delicate and difficult are those decisions when you're talking about pushing money into the future?
It's all, I mean, when we do our cap work, it's not just about this year. I mean, we've got cap sheet for 22, for 23, and 24. And when you toggle something, what does that do to those 3 years? So it's all, you know, it's all in the formula, and it's all in the decision making, and, you know, there's a lot of moving parts to it. So everybody's contract comes into play, and you're looking at each one, you know, each of the line items when you're looking through that and where there might be opportunities. So it's kind of how that works.
with all those cap situations to consider, how possible or likely do you think it is that y'all would use a tag this year on one of your free agents?
We haven't ruled out. That's been in the strategy meetings.
Where does this offseason rank in terms of difficulty in some of the ones that you've had in the past with all of these challenges?
It'd be up there. I mean, this is one, obviously with the pandemic tightening up the cap space, if you will. And then, of course, we're now back to dealing with a franchise quarterback that's getting paid like a franchise quarterback. And, that starts to ramp up. And then, I just feel like we got a really good football team and we're trying to keep it together. And then naturally, some of these young players that, that are really developing right before our eyes here. I mean, they're top-end players. They're eventually going to come up for a contract too, so you got to keep that in mind as well. And so we're thinking about 23, 24 when, these younger players start to come up again. So it's definitely a little, it's a lot of moving parts to it.
Talking about planning ahead and looking down the line, when did you really look at this offseason and see that it was going to be a tough one?
We've known it for 2 or 3 years now. I mean, like I said, we're usually looking at 3 years worth of cap sheets. So a couple years ago, we saw this is going to be going, and especially when the pandemic hit and it, brought the cap space back down.
Doesn't it change some things though when you lose to the 49ers in the first round as opposed to, let's say, you guys went to the NFC Championship game, let's say you guys went to the Super Bowl, wouldn't it make it more where you'd be like, we got to do whatever we can to bring this back, we were this close, whereas when you lose a wild card round, maybe you're not as close as you thought you were?
Yeah, I mean, all these games, our game was, last play of the game, whether we win the game or not. And then San Francisco gets eliminated on the last play of the game. And every one of these games came down to the last play of the game. So, we kind of look at it that way in terms of where this thing is. And, we just feel like we've got a really good football team that's got to clean some things up.
Steven, how do you make the punt a safer play?
Punt a safer play, it's difficult. I mean, you saw how we made the kickoff a more special play. We took a lot of the returns out of the game. So, we hadn't gotten into the details of that yet. We've just spent a lot of time this morning on the injury data.
I know you said it's too early to really make a call on that overtime rule, but do you think it's accurate to say that the league and its rules are more offensive favored than they were when the overtime rule was initially put in place? In terms of
I would
whether
say
they
in
vote?
general, yes, that we're a more offensive league than we've ever been. I think that's a fair statement. And consequently, that's the unintended consequences of, what that can affect, which is overtime. So it's an astute observation, but one we'll certainly take into consideration.
How do you figure?
Get back to the combine possibly coming to Dallas. How far along are you guys in that process of ramping up what you want, your proposal and things that you can do with Frisco and Arlington and the municipalities and
Yeah.
getting that together?
I wouldn't say we're way down the road. We're just in the early stages.
No presentation's been made or
No.
anything like that?
How do you fix the details that, specifically in the passing game, that just seem to be lacking really throughout the season, certainly down the stretch? That was a real differentiator about why you guys' season came to a conclusion when it did.
How do you do it?
Yeah, how do
You
you-
get in there and you roll up your sleeves. I mean, we've got real smart people, and Kellen and his staff, and of course Mike's background's impeccable in terms of his background on offense. And you just get in there and you self-scout yourself, and then you figure, hey, we've got to do this better, we got to do this better, we got to do this better. We'll incorporate this, and you grind through it. Not unlike we did on defense last year. I mean, it's something, and like you said, it's not like we're starting at the bottom here. I mean, we had a very productive offense last year.
We talk a lot about how players develop in this league year to year, within season. How true does that hold for a young coach like Kellen, getting another year of experience and getting a chance to build off last year?
I think any coach tells you, that really work at it, that they only get better with each year. It's like a football player too. If you continue to work at it, you continue to get better.
Steve,
Better
coaching
about-
staff-wise, are you guys set? Is Joe Bowden out, and has he joined you guys?
He hasn't joined us yet, no.
Is there any
So
other
that's the
change?
only place we're really missing right now. But you never know. I mean, you never know if you might add somebody who's not going to have a job this year that's getting paid by another staff. I mean, we've done that before. So we wouldn't totally rule that out.
The receiver coach is set.
Yes. That it, guys?
Thank you.
Thanks, Steven.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
Steven.
Thank you.